Welcome to week 10 of SED 445. This week we're going to take a look at behavior reduction procedures. So let's explore. We have enhancement and reductive procedures. So PBIS is big on strengthening those positive behaviors, those things that we want to see, the things that we have taught them to do to replace the problematic behaviors. So what we have here is a list from the least to most intrusive. So we have the reductive procedures on the right, whereas on the left we have those enhancement or strengthening of those positive behaviors through self-regulation, social reinforcement, modeling, the use of contracts, reinforcement with activities, tokens, tangible reinforcement, edible reinforcement, such as food, tactile and sensory reinforcement. So then we look over on the right, we have practices such as differential reinforcement, which we're going to get into in a little bit, pre-correction, extinction, which we have discussed in earlier lecture videos and throughout this course, verbal aversives, response cost systems, timeouts, overcorrection, and physical aversives. So the things that are on the right, usually the first few, maybe 5, are typically seen in schools, whereas as we go down this continuum, things get more intrusive, and therefore we probably wouldn't see them in a public school setting, but maybe more in like a mental health setting or day treatment facility type setting, where it's part of a plan that a team of people have developed. When faced with serious, challenging behavior that continues despite application of positive interventions, effective teachers will know and be able to use a variety of techniques for reducing challenging behavior. So whenever we say reducing, reduction, reductive, the key is that it's an aversive or punishing approach to weakening behavior. And so whenever we hear reductive behavior techniques, we're usually thinking of, more punishing techniques. So we need to be very careful about our choices for that approach. Punishment is often the most common response to challenging behavior, but is seldom the most effective response for students who exhibit chronic challenging behaviors. So as we've discussed, knowing the function of the behavior is key, because sometimes, a lot of times in schools, punishers are, doled out to children and we don't know the function, and it's actually reinforcing the behavior, unknowingly reinforcing the behavior. So making sure that we have a clear understanding and think functionally in terms of the behavior can help us avoid that. So as we've discussed in previous lectures and throughout this course, we know that punishment is one type of behavior reduction procedure. It generally refers to a stimulus that follows a behavior and reduces future occurrences of the behavior. So it, like a reinforcer, can be defined only by its effects on the behavior. So if the behavior is not weakened or eliminated, then punishment has not occurred. And in the context that we refer to punishment in this class, it does not include the general education or Tier 1 consequences that apply universally. So these are traditional disciplinary methods such as calling home, loss of privileges, detentions, which may continue to apply at all tiers, so throughout the classroom environment and even the school environment. So some considerations before choosing a punisher as a behavior reduction technique. So we need to make these considerations. Are rules and procedures clear, and have they been taught to students? Does the classroom climate and teacher-student relationship reflect a respectful, positive learning environment? Has a functional behavior assessment been conducted, and have resulting hypotheses been used as a basis for designing antecedent and reinforcement interventions? Have dense reinforcement schedules been used to reinforce appropriate behavior? So when I mean dense, we mean continuous, as we have talked about in the scheduling of reinforcers. Are the curricula and instructional methods appropriate for the student's learning needs? So we need to think about the students' present levels, and are they able to meet those expectations? Is the student actively and successfully engaged in meaningful learning tasks most of the time? Has the student been directly taught appropriate behavioral, social, and communication skills? Oftentimes, we think that they should have these skills already, but they really need to be explicitly taught these skills in order for us to expect them to apply them. And lastly, have all the interventions been applied correctly and consistently? So we need to think about the fidelity of the intervention program. Have we followed through with everything that needs to be followed through with? If the answer to any of these questions is no, then the first step before a behavior reduction procedure is to address the situation. So if all answers to all of these questions is yes, then it might be appropriate to plan a behavior reduction intervention. So in this class, when we're going through in our IBCP, you should be able to answer all of these questions with yes throughout our project. So what types of behaviors warrant behavior reduction procedures? Chronic inappropriate behaviors that persist despite clear, correct use of antecedent measures, reinforcement of appropriate behavior, and natural logical consequences. Behavior that is dangerous to self or others, and there are plenty of guidelines that special ed has to follow, such as Chapter 33, when a student is presenting dangerous behaviors to themselves or others. So that's the restraint and seclusion rule that is outside of MUSER, but it is a state-governed rule. Behaviors that interfere with students' academic or social success. So remember, these types of techniques are more intensive than the traditional or Tier 1 classroom technique. So we have a hierarchy of behavior reduction techniques. We have reinforcement-based strategies. So we have differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors, as well as differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. And this is what I would prefer to see for behavior reduction techniques if you were to apply them throughout your projects. So DRI and DRA are often used interchangeably, so long as alternative behavior is also incompatible. So we think of that fair pair. Since it is sometimes difficult to come up with a DRI that's a fair pair, DRA is often more viable choice. So it allows for a more broader range of behaviors than a DRI. The alternative behavior must serve the same function. We also have DRL, which is differential reinforcement of lower rates of behavior, so often helpful when trying to reduce mild behaviors that are not dangerous or highly disruptive, but are interfering with student success, or behaviors that might be acceptable or even desirable at low levels, but inappropriate when exhibited too much. So we think of sometimes the disruptive behaviors, or tend to think of those like annoying behaviors. GRO is differential reinforcement of 0 levels of behavior, or differential reinforcement of other behaviors. So this is when reinforcement is contingent on absence of a particular behavior or type of behavior, so not exhibiting that behavior at all. We have also discussed extinction, which is withholding reinforcement or withholding attention if attention is the function of the behavior. Removal of reinforcement stimuli, so we think of a response cost system, excuse me, and that is a punishment procedure in which a specified amount of reinforcement stimuli is withdrawn or removed contingent upon a particular behavior. So, for example, library fines, traffic fines, paying bills late. But in a school setting, we often see this with tokens that equal, when I write a behavior plan, 5 tokens equals, 20 minutes on the iPad. And if you exhibit the behavior, you're taking away one of those tokens so they have less reinforcing stimuli available to them at the end of the day or end of class. for each time that they're exhibiting the behavior. There's also timeouts. The technical term for timeout from positive reinforcement, where an individual is denied access to reinforcers for a predetermined period of time. This is a procedure, not a place, so it may be non-exclusionary, exclusionary, or seclusionary. So excluded, secluded from environment, or lost opportunities for reinforcers. So here we're continuing down the hierarchy of behavior reduction techniques. We have the presentation of aversive stimuli. Here in big bold letters, it is not recommended and it is not consistent with PBIS. So I do not want to see any of these in your projects whatsoever. So this is a conditioned aversive stimuli. We learn to dislike through pairing with unconditioned aversive stimuli such as reprimands. Unconditioned aversive stimuli, inherently or naturally painful, distasteful, or annoying, we don't need to learn to dislike these things. There's also overcorrection procedures where an instructional, it's instructional because it requires the student to practice an inappropriate behavior that is related to the practice appropriate behavior, that's related to the inappropriate behavior, but it is punishing because the student must practice the appropriate behavior multiple times. So when we think of The Simpsons and we see Bart Simpson writing on the board 1,000 times, and we've seen that as a cliche for a punishment in the past, that is overcorrection procedures. So then we also think of restitutional, for example, if a student has to compensate for damage that was a result of their actions. Something I'm going to try to link in this folder is some information on restorative practice. It's similar to the restitutional piece that we're discussing here, but there's more of a learning opportunity sort of approach. I'm not going to get into it too much in this class because we're talking about positive behavior supports and interventions. We could do a totally different class on restorative practices, but I'll just give you a link or two just so that you can kind of check it out since we've talked about it. Let's see. So I recommend that you go back and look at the differential reinforcements, let me find that are least intrusive and fits with the positive reinforcement, because we're not recommending adding any aversives to our projects because we don't want to add any major, punishers because we're teaching those positive behaviors. We can add consequences that are consistent with what is happening in the classroom. So for example, those tier 1 approaches where you might see that are consistent with classroom rules and expectations that would fit the mold for everyone. So let me see if I can go back and find. So I would want to see these more so than any of the punishers that we went through in these slides in our projects. But I hope this was helpful. For next week, I'm looking through my slides and I'm thinking that I'm not going to do a lecture video because I have about 50 or so slides that would really just be me talking, and you can certainly read and digest it on your own. So I'm going to post that for next week. So I think this is our last lecture together. But we still have a lot to do on our IBCPs, excuse me. As you can see, I'm running out of steam and I'm up to my 15-minute mark. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a question in the Questions for Liz discussion thread, and I look forward to giving you guys some feedback on your projects. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.